4 of Allotment Diaries, where I give you a behind the scenes look at what goes on in an allotment. Today I'll be showing you the no dig method that I use to make the soil really healthy and also to suppress weeds until the spring. And also I'll be selecting the vegetables that we're going to be using with Dom from Dom in the Kitchen on next week's cook along session. We've come to the slower part of the year where we're not rushing around planting, weeding, watering. It's time to take stock and we can think about the structure of the allotment, put paths into place. I'm going to make a larger seating area. But first, let me show you what I've started making. These plants here are cardoons. I bought them labelled up as globe artichokes, but they are definitely cardoons. They are edible like their cousins, the globe artichokes, but the part you eat, which is the flower bud, they're tougher, they're smaller, and they're not as nice as globe artichokes. So you might be wondering, why do I carry on growing them then? Well, firstly, they are beautiful and add architectural structure to the plot. They also act as a really nice little privacy screen between myself and my neighbour, but mostly because the bees absolutely love them. In late summer, the flowers look like these huge electric purple thistle heads, and they're just covered in pollinators. Now, I don't usually clear the dead stems and seed heads. I normally leave those for the beetles, the good beetles, to hide in. But this year, I want to make a wattle-typed edging around my allotment, and the tall wood-like stems, they're going to be absolutely perfect for that. So I just remove the seed heads and then weave them in and out these steel poles. Now, whilst I'm happy for friendly insects to make their home, the pests and diseases are always a challenge. Yet, unfortunately, blight came to the allotment and attacked the tomatoes completely. It's not really a surprise because we've had wet, warm weather, which has just been perfect breeding conditions for this fungus type disease. And even if you catch it early, even if you notice it's on a few plants and take them out, it does really mean that the whole crop will eventually suffer and die. I need to make sure I've removed everything, including the fallen tomatoes, because the fungus can lay dormant and it can attack next year. So I won't put these in my compost bin because the bin, it won't get hot enough to destroy the fungus. But if I leave it in a brown waste bin for the council, then they will be able to dispose of it correctly. I won't be planting on this area until next year, so I'm going to protect and improve the soil using this easy no-dig method. If you're not making new beds or you don't have any perennial weeds like bindweeds or dandelions, then you don't need the cardboard for this. But I wanted to show you how it was done, even if you were making new beds. So firstly, you can just leave the weeds in. Brilliant. If they're too high, then you can just trim them down a bit so it's easy to lay the cardboard layer on top. Just make sure you remove any plastic tape from the cardboard packaging, then apply a layer of compost on top about 10 to 15 centimetres deep. Now this can be made up of well-rotted leaves, grass clippings, kitchen waste, anything really that's rotted down well. And I can leave this all over the winter, let the worms do their things, and it will be perfect for planting up in the spring. Blight eventually got the tomatoes in the greenhouse too, so I cleared them all out, gave everything a bit of a clean, and I'll be using my greenhouse now to overwinter plants and cuttings that I've taken from my summer pots and containers. They'll need protecting from the frost, and that way I can save myself money because I won't have to buy new ones next year. Now for something a bit different. I'm very excited to tell you about a session that's happening next week on the Virtual Village Hall. It's on Tuesday, the 19th of November at 11 a.m. I really hope you'll be able to join me and cook along with Dom from Dom in the Kitchen using some of the produce from my allotment. I haven't been told what we're cooking yet, but here are a few of the seasonal vegetables that I'll have with me. You'll be very familiar with this vegetable, the wonderfully versatile leek. I planted these plants back in June when they were like long grass stems, very, very tiny, and they've grown on and I can now dig them up this size. I'll also let some carry on growing to get really big. They'll survive the cold, they even survive snow. So it's a great one for when there's not much else growing on the allotment. I always leave a few plants in as well to go to seed. Before they set seed, they will flower, and the bees absolutely love them. Next up is rainbow chard. Now, you hardly ever see this in the shops, and when you do, it's really expensive. It's not actually difficult to grow, but it is difficult to keep looking pristine for shop shelves, because once it's picked, it wilts very quickly. It's a great one to try though, because it is packed full of vitamins. It's also got dietary fibres in it, and it tastes like quite similar to spinach, but it's got a stronger flavour. It happily self-seeds all over my allotment. I'll also have the winter squash I harvested and stored last month. You'll remember that they come in all sorts of shapes, sizes, colours, and each tastes slightly different. I grow lots of these, so I'm always pleased to find a new recipe that I can use them in. I've shown you the potatoes before, and with careful storage I can almost have allotment potatoes all year round. As you can see, I still haven't finished digging them all up yet, and it is really important that I do this before the frosts come, so that is going to go top of my list. A slightly unusual vegetable now, which is related to the sunflower. These are Jerusalem artichokes. Like potatoes, they grow underground, but they're hardy, so can withstand a frost, and I just leave them in all year round. I think the flavour is a little bit like cooked chestnuts, so they're sort of a bit nutty and a bit creamy, but be warned, they do give you really bad wind because they contain a carbohydrate called inulin that the body finds very difficult to break down. So you taste really good, but you have been warned. The chilies are still just holding on in the greenhouse, so we'll have to see if Dom uses these in the cook-along to give a spicy touch to the dish that we'll be making. So please do join us next week, Tuesday 19th of November at 11 a.m. here on the Virtual Veg Hall to bring the outside in for a seasonal cook-along. Lastly, here's an update on a few other things that are happening on the allotment at the moment. In the cut flower garden, there are a couple of standout flowers still going. So that is the zinnias and cosmos. They always look amazing at this time of the year. They'll carry on flowering until the first frosts, so I'm making the most of them while I can. The garlic I planted last month is up, and the onions are sitting tight under their netting, making sure that the foxes and the birds don't dig them up. And no doubt you'll remember the ongoing saga of the giant pumpkin and the teeny tiny watermelon. Well, these have both now been harvested and sampled. I hope you found that useful and you can take away some of the ideas from today's session. Please do comment or like or let us know any tips and hints that you have for growing your own veg or any gardening that you love doing. Next month, I'll be showing you just a few of the last things that can be sown before the winter, and also we'll be ordering our seeds. So I will see you then. Take care. Bye.